Hey, what is going on, guys? We are back with another video. Now, for some of you guys that like to watch the series, the videos on the channel, I mean, hey, appreciate you a ton in general. But if you guys like to just mainly watch but not actually play it, this is probably not the video for you. But I have gotten many questions, specifically this Madden, about my sliders, whether that be XP sliders, gameplay sliders for franchise or for rebuilds. I know it's technically franchise, but you know what I mean. And I decided, you know what, just make a video on it instead of, constantly telling people what they are and having to write it out and remember it all. I'm just going to make a video. Now, some of these will change throughout my playing, but for the most part, they're like maybe slight little sliver tweaks, which in general, you may need to change yourself based on your playing experience. Sometimes some people like to play completely, quote-unquote, unrealistic, throw for 800 yards in a game, throw 400 yards to a tight end or something. You probably don't want to have the exact same sliders as me, who's kind of just trying to play it as realistically as possible. And, well, maybe not always, but you get the point, right? It's typically realistic. But we're here in our Broncos Aaron Rodgers rebuild because, it's the most recent franchise I did, or rebuild I did. And we're going to take a quick look at the XP sliders. Now, once again, like I said, they do kind of tweak a little bit. Sometimes I lower them a little bit if we have, like, let's say we're doing a Steelers rebuild, and Najee Harris, since he's a superstar, he's so freaking good because he's, not really even that young, to be honest, in Madden, but he's pretty young. He's a superstar. If I see that he's upgraded maybe too high, I'll drop this a little bit. But if you guys enjoyed the way that players progress in our Broncos franchise, this is literally the sliders we had for that. The thing is, this is kind of based on like a 4 or 5 year kind of model, if you will. If you're trying to do a 10-year rebuild, you may need to drop these a bit. This is where I like to see, some of our, specifically our teams we build, but some of the best teams in the league be around a 90 within 4 to 5 years, because I don't want to do a 10-year rebuild every time. This is what, which I suppose is probably the standard for a rebuild, about 4 or 5 years or so. This is what I would run. Quarterbacks, once again, if you have only normal, you can't get DevOps, it's going to be challenging. But that also adds to the, well, not every player should just be a god because you drafted him, So this is what I rock. Tight ends maybe a little bit higher if you're really struggling, but overall, tight end is one of those positions that takes a little bit more to develop than wide receivers. So maybe bump it a little bit. I think I had this one on 149 for the most part throughout with Noah Fant. He still got to a decent overall, and you got to remember, in our rebuild, he struggled a lot. I don't think he even passed 800 yards receiving once, and most of them were like 600 or something with like 2 or 3 touchdowns. O-line, maybe you'd like to develop it a little bit faster. I wouldn't go anywhere past like 180 or under for any of them. Fullback, I don't think it really matters, but 170 to maybe even 200 is probably fair. D-line, DT is one of the toughest positions to develop in the game. It is one of the more abundant ones in the drafts, but even then, you guys seen Tyler Davis got a dev up literally in his rookie year, I believe, to star. He had some okay run-stopping seasons. Got around to a 90 by the time he was like off of his rookie deal, so I think that's fair. D-line, DN, if you're in a 3-4, maybe you want to bump this to like 152. I would treat that as a DT if you're in a 3-4. And then, once again, if you're in a 4-3, maybe drop the outside linebackers down to like 147. But 145 for middle linebacker, one of the easier positions to develop. I like. Cornerback, that's good. Safeties, that's good. Kicker, punter, like I said, after year 4 or 5, you're going to see a lot of high overall kickers or punters. But at the same time, if you drop this too much, you're not going to see any of the rookie CPU kickers and punters do anything. So that's why I have that like that. And of course, when we come in the game from time to time in rebuilds, you probably hear me say, oh, it's base Madden sliders, base All-Madden sliders. That's literally what it is. So for gameplay, I don't even know if it matters for sim. I highly doubt it. I turn that off. As far as, I suppose, if you want to see like every single setting for a rebuild, this is what I usually rock. I do injuries on rebuilds sometimes, but I just find that the injuries are just way too inconsistent. You'll have guys like Carson Wentz never getting injured, and then you have back-to-back seasons where, Tom Brady's hurt or something. I just think it's a little too inconsistent, so I usually turn those off. I turn practice injury off, progressive fatigue off. Of course, the minimum roster size, you don't want to be limited. Regression is off, but you could turn that on. I haven't really tested it this year to see how accurate it is, but I know in years past it's been pretty inconsistent. You'll have guys that, are best in the league at certain things, like interceptions at linebacker, but they'll regress. And, you'll see sometimes there'll be a regression, and then they'll progress, so it's like they're back to normal. I don't know. It's weird. Auto for weekly training, auto for manage, practice reps. And then I have these on auto just because it takes a bit to upgrade players and talents. But as far as, if you really wanted to get in there and make the best possible team, then I would do manual, because the AI does tend to upgrade deep threat for wide receivers all the time. And what is it called? Man coverage for corners. They just love doing that. And then for DTs, they kind of like to just go only block shed, which isn't terrible, I suppose. And then offensive line, they're terrible upgrading. But everything else is okay, so I don't really mind it too much, and it saves me so much time. You already see how long the rebuilds are half the time. But that is for this. We will go look into our Raiders franchise now, and then we'll take a look at our Dolphins franchise, which is an online league, which I think is on All-Pro. It's a little bit different, but, just going through all the bases. And, of course, we will be live tonight with more of this Raiders franchise. Week 18, if we win, we are in for the number 1 seed in maybe even a potential Super Bowl trip. The thing that I don't like, though, is that even though our sliders are kind of tough, we kind of outplay them a little bit at times. But this is kind of the roster. I mean, I'd say a lot of people, you guys know about this series, but it is a pretty good team. Robbie St. Louis, he misses throws from time to time with the sliders we have on, but what is his ratings? I haven't actually paid attention to him too much. I mean, with the morale boost, he's not actually a terrible quarterback, so fair enough, right? Hardman's a good receiver. Fredericks isn't bad with the boost. Waller's one of the best tight ends in the league. Jacobs is an insane running back. D-line is crazy, and even then, we're trying to adjust those sliders a little bit, but we will show you the sliders here. And once again, if this helps you at all, that's awesome. Maybe think about subscribing, maybe like it. I mean, it's all free stuff, but it makes so much of a difference to me. So, even when you think, oh, it's not that big of a deal, it is. It's pretty big. So and when she asks you what's your pack, okay. But let's look at the XP sliders. I actually haven't changed these in a long time, and maybe they do need a tweaking. Quarterback, it could probably go up a little bit. Running back at 103. Jacobs is actually upgraded a lot. I know he's had some pretty good seasons. Tight end, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'm going to be honest with you, wouldn't be able to tell you because, once again, Waller's a pretty good overall, but even he's had some upgrades. Receivers, you could probably bump to about 112. Once again, fullback, we absolutely sold on this, but we have a superstar fullback now, so O-line, we've seen a couple of upgrades, but nothing major. It's just, for me, I don't want my players to get too good too, fast. D-line has been very successful for upgrading with just these sliders in user. Obviously, this is a user franchise, not a rebuild. Linebackers absolutely should have upgraded these a little bit. I just, once again, didn't want to change them because I felt like, our leagues have gotten a little out of hand a little too quickly in previous years, and I felt like the pacing's been a lot better. Like, cornerback has been decent for us in this one, maybe bump it a tiny bit. But overall, I'm pretty happy with these sliders. I don't think you need too much. Once again, the game does have them set at 100%, which means, full in their mind, which they're not perfect, obviously, but they are all right. So the main sliders I would be looking to change would probably be O-line, D-line, and linebacker. And then the rest, you kind of just base it off of, how you play. If you force feed the ball to certain receivers, the XP percentage might not matter because you're going to be top of the league, winning tons of awards and all that. And, it really depends on what your goal is. And then for gameplay, which I would say this is the majority of you here, the majority of people here would be watching for this. This is what we have for gameplay. QB accuracy at 25. Once again, I don't know if my Madden's glitched because I have seen people that have, played on sliders that look way easier than this, have a tougher time, and I'm not trying to throw shade like I'm the greatest Madden player ever. I wouldn't be playing only franchise if that was the case. I'd try to compete. I'd try to become, some money guy. But, yeah, All-Madden, 25% for, or 25, I don't know if they go by percent, for QB accuracy has been pretty good. There's been some inaccuracies, but you still hit some pretty crazy throws, so I really don't know how people play on base 50. It just seems too easy. Pass blocking at 40. I think our O-line is about average, so this is a pretty good indicator that maybe 40. I'd say 38 to 40. Wide receiver catching, we almost never drop the ball in possession. Rack catch, we do drop it a lot when we're in trouble, but not with Waller maybe. Our receivers are a little lacking once again. Run block, I think 43 to 44 is about fine. Fumbles, we never fumble. I don't know if we just need to go lower, but we never fumble. Pass coverage is the toughest one. This slider has been one of the most controversial in just gaming history potentially, but Madden history. It just seems like it almost doesn't work, and that some of the terminology may just be completely wrong. But 48 pass defense reaction time is what I use. 37 pass coverage. We still cover pretty well. The problem is the AI just doesn't throw it. It's not that our coverage is too good. It's that the AI isn't super decisive. I got a comment saying that turn off intentional grounding because A, you never really see it too much, and B, the AI apparently plays better when you do. So I might try that and see if that changes anything. Interceptions at 50, we drop picks a lot anyways. Tackling at 50, we still, miss tackles. Quarterback accuracy. I don't know if I should put this at Hunter. What's the story? But once again, it's not about their accuracy. It's about the decision-making, and I don't know how to make that better. Pass blocking, you got to remember, our D-line is insane. And even at 53, AIs will still usually give the quarterback 3 to 5 seconds to throw. I say 3 to 5 because it is kind of varying, which is what you want. You want your pass rush to sometimes win and then sometimes get locked up. Catching, I think, is fine. Run blocking at 77. They don't really run that successfully. It's about average, like I said, which is a good thing. And then pass coverage and all that, once again, it's so controversial because sometimes, I had this at 100, I had this at 0, had this at 100, had this at 0, and it almost feels like it plays the same always. Tackling, we don't really break too many tackles, so 47's all right. I put the punt accuracy at 100 because for some reason the AI is just terrible at punting in Madden. Punt power at 52, you can maybe even up this a little bit and just manually punt lower because once again the AIs just suck. They'll punt from the 50 and you'll start at like the 26 almost every time. I don't understand how that's possible, but it happens all the time. Field goal accuracy, once again, we know as a user it's very easy to hit field goals. I just want the AI to hit them more often because it seems like once you get to the 55-plus mark, the AI just goes blind. They don't know what they're doing. Field goal kick power, probably about 51, 52 is fine. But these are the toughest ones. I think 50 and 77 is fine because they still cover pretty damn well. But those are the sliders for that. We'll go over our Dolphins franchise. Once again, there's not going to be a crazy amount of slider changes for XP or gameplay, but we'll show those just to cover all the bases. Of course, we're still waiting to get to Week 8. Obviously, that was a bye week in Week 6. Not the greatest stats if you follow these series. If you don't, you're maybe even just new to the channel, you're probably thinking, I don't care. But fair enough. But yeah, if you have watched the series, you'll know... maybe I'll show you guys the ratings for some of our guys. We haven't really made too many trades, so this is kind of what we're just sitting on. Tight ends, Gesicki, he has had some good seasons, but he's a very high overall, and we're only on 100%. Wide receivers, once again, Fuller has developed some, obviously, devs. He's an X factor, and even some overalls, and he's only, we're only at 100, and he's older. Running back, Mitchell's like 85, 86. We haven't even really used him that much, to be honest, so... I actually think in a user league, at least last gen, it seems like you don't really need to boost too much. Maybe the O-line could bump a little bit higher even. And then defensive, we have no boost at all here. Maybe we could bump the DTs to 110. And then kicker and punter, we probably should have at least 125. But once again, not much of a change here for our XP sliders. And then gameplay, we've tweaked a bit. I still think we might need to drop pass blocking even more. Our pass rush in the league has been a little iffy. But 42 pass block, 45 wide receiver catching, 50 for pass or QB accuracy. Run blocking is at 10, which is pretty good for us. I feel like you can still break some big runs off, and our running is, the yards per carry is still about 6 maybe per, on average. There's a lot of different factors like users just missing lanes and also just not playing prevent for the tackle. They just go for the hit stick wildly when they have no run support. Everything else is base, but 80 tackling. The big issue we were trying to stop is just in general run run defense, obviously. And more importantly, the fall forward animations in this game are brutal. With 80 tackling, it doesn't change the fact that juke moves work like 100% of the time. And then everything else is literally like the same. Fatigue is at 35. Is that normal? Is 50 base or is 35 base? I think 35 is base. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much our sliders, to be honest. I think we have talked about changing, where is it? Pass interference? Wait, defensive pass interference. Yeah, we talked about changing some of these just to see what, kind of animations change. Because I think the game does change completely when you turn off some of these different flags, because the tendency is that you don't want to, give up a penalty, and the game isn't coded perfectly, obviously, as we know. And, they don't want the game to look pretty bad. If you turn it all the way to 100, the AI might just not engage the receiver at all just to avoid the penalty. But yeah, those are pretty much the sliders. Let me know if you guys have any suggestions. Maybe you're in the perfect league for online or offline, and you're just like, we've got better sliders, brother. We're having a great time offline and online. Let me know in the comment section below. I'm not saying that these are the perfect sliders, but these are what I run, and people ask. So there's the video. If anyone asks, I'll be like, hey, there's the video, brother man. But yeah, appreciate you watching. Should be another video later today that's more on your normal, I don't know, what scale? What would the normal scheduling, I guess? Something more expect from the channel rather than quote-unquote a tips video. But yeah, that's pretty much that. Like I said, later tonight around 10 p.m. Central Standard Time on twitch.tv/Jeromepkr, we'll be streaming Raiders franchise. And that's about it. Maybe follow me on Twitter, Jeromepkr. Second channel, PK Plays. And then all the other stuff has been mentioned. Hopefully you guys come back for next video. But until next video, see ya!